Close your eyes. Picture yourself standing outside a towering federal prison. It's January 21st, 2025. The crisp winter air carries a sense of anticipation, punctuated by the sight of reporters and small clusters of onlookers, their breaths visible in the cold. The heavy metal doors creak open. Out walks a man who hasn't felt the sun on his face as a free individual for over a decade. Ross Ulbricht is stepping into a world that's changed in profound ways since his arrest in 2013. He is 40 years old now, a man prematurely aged by years behind bars, and yet surprisingly calm as he takes his first steps into freedom. Ross was just 29 when he was arrested in a San Francisco public library, a moment frozen in time for many. Carrying 2 life sentences plus 40 years, his story seemed destined to be a cautionary tale of ambition meeting the full force of law. Now, at the center of a media whirlwind, his release marks the end of a chapter that began in the shadowy depths of the internet. The pardon came from President Donald Trump, signed on his first full day in office. It was a promise made during his campaign at a Bitcoin conference in Nashville, echoing through a crowd of enthusiasts, their cheers resounding like a rallying cry. For them, Ross's case was more than just a legal battle. It was emblematic of the tensions between innovation and regulation, between a burgeoning digital frontier and the state. But to truly understand this moment, we must journey back to October 2013, when Ross's world was upended. At the time, the Silk Road, the clandestine marketplace he founded, had grown into a digital bazaar of unprecedented scale. It was a place where anonymity reigned supreme, powered by Bitcoin and shrouded by Tor, allowing users to transact without fear of governmental oversight. The numbers were staggering. At its zenith, Silk Road facilitated transactions worth approximately $1.2 billion. Yet beyond the figures was a deeper narrative, one that questioned the very limits of freedom and responsibility in a digital age. Ross, known by his online alias Dread Pirate Roberts, became both a hero and a villain in this unfolding drama, a figure cloaked in mystery and moral ambiguity. Supporters argued that Silk Road was a libertarian utopia, a marketplace free from the shackles of traditional commerce, where individuals could engage freely without the intrusive eye of the state. Critics, however, saw it as a lawless corner of the internet, where illicit activities flourished unchecked. The debate over Silk Road's legacy became a battleground for broader discussions about privacy, freedom, and the reach of government in the digital age. This story is not just about a single man, nor merely about a digital marketplace. It delves into the philosophical questions about the nature of innovation and the ethical frameworks that guide it. It is a narrative woven into the very fabric of the 21st century, where technology outpaces regulation and where the consequences of digital actions ripple through real lives. As Ross Ulbricht stands in the present, looking toward an uncertain future, we're left to explore the complex intersections of technology, law, and human ambition. What does his story tell us about the boundaries of personal freedom in the age of the internet? How do we reconcile the promise of digital currencies and platforms with the potential for misuse? Join us as we unravel the tale of Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road, and the indelible mark they have left If you're enjoying this story, subscribe to Satoshi's Lullaby. New episodes every day. Now, let's continue. Left on the world. This is where our journey begins. Welcome to Chapter 1. This is where our journey begins. Welcome to Chapter 1. In the quiet suburbs of Austin, Texas, on March 27, 1984, a child was born who later challenged the boundaries of the digital world. His name was Ross William Ulbricht. Ross grew up surrounded by the rolling hills and vibrant culture of Austin, a city known for its eclectic music scene and tech innovations. His childhood was filled with hours spent in nature, hiking the trails of Bart Creek, and learning from the diverse minds that populated his hometown. As he matured, Ross developed a profound interest in science and philosophy, two pillars that would later influence his life in unexpected ways. Ross attended Westlake High School and excelled in academics, particularly in physics and computer science. His teachers noted his curious mind and penchant for asking questions that delved deeper than the average student. This intellectual curiosity led him to the University of Texas at Dallas, where he pursued a degree in physics. It was during these formative college years that Ross encountered libertarian philosophies of figures like Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard. He became fascinated by the ideas of personal freedom, facilitating illegal activities. Meanwhile, law enforcement agencies worldwide faced the challenge of dismantling a marketplace that operated in the shadows, beyond their reach. For Ross, the reality of managing the Silk Road was a constant balancing act, maintaining the integrity of the platform while navigating the ethical dilemmas it presented. He was building more than just a business. He was crafting a statement about freedom and control in the digital age. As we close this chapter, we stand at the threshold of a new era for Ross Ulbricht. The Silk Road was more than an experiment. It was a bold declaration of independence in a world increasingly defined by surveillance and control. In the upcoming chapter, we will delve deeper into the creation of the Silk Road itself. We will explore the technological innovations and philosophical debates that fueled its meteoric rise, and the challenges Ross faced as its enigmatic leader. The journey has just begun, and the path ahead promises to be as tumultuous as it is enlightening. The journey has just begun, and the path ahead promises to be as tumultuous as it is enlightening. In the early days of 2011, a digital revolution began to unfold in the hidden corners of the internet. This revolution was both shadowy and profound, and it was known as the Silk Road. Ross Ulbricht stood at its helm, a visionary in his 20s, with ideals rooted deeply in libertarian philosophies and technological innovation. With the launch of Silk Road in January 2011, Ulbricht tapped into the burgeoning world of Bitcoin, a cryptocurrency that promised anonymity and freedom from traditional financial institutions. Bitcoin, created by the enigmatic Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008, was still in its infancy, barely understood by the mainstream, but seen by some as a beacon of economic independence. For Ulbricht, Bitcoin was the perfect tool for his new marketplace, a place where privacy was paramount and transactions could occur without the prying eyes of governments or banks. The integration of Bitcoin and Tor, a software that allowed users to browse the internet anonymously, was a stroke of genius. It was this combination that made Silk Road possible, creating a virtual space where buyers and sellers could engage in commerce free from the fear of surveillance. As word spread, the marketplace began to attract a diverse array of users, from libertarians and tech enthusiasts to those seeking goods and services forbidden by law. By the end of 2011, Silk Road had already started to gain notoriety. It was a place of paradoxes, where idealism and pragmatism collided, fueled by a currency that was itself a symbol of both opportunity and risk. Transactions on the platform swelled, quickly surpassing early expectations. Silk Road processed millions of dollars in Bitcoin, drawing the attention of both the hopeful and the wary. Ulbricht, under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, cultivated a persona that was as much myth as it was man. The alias, borrowed from the cult classic film The Princess Bride, was symbolic of a leader who could be anyone and everyone, a figurehead in a decentralized world. Ross used this identity to engage with users, offering them a sense of community within the chaotic confines of this digital bazaar. As 2012 dawned, Silk Road's influence only grew. It became more than just a marketplace. It was a movement towards what many saw as a more free and open society, unburdened by the constraints of conventional governance. The marketplace teemed with activity, processing transactions that would soon amount to hundreds of millions of dollars. By the end of 2012, Silk Road had become a haven for those disillusioned with the status quo and was emerging as a formidable player in the world of illicit trade. The rapid rise of Silk Road did not go unnoticed by authorities. The anonymity that Bitcoin and Tor provided also posed a significant challenge to law enforcement agencies worldwide. The marketplace was facilitating illegal activities on an unprecedented scale, prompting investigations that spanned continents. Agencies like the FBI and DEA began to scrutinize this new digital frontier, determined to dismantle the network. Yet for many users, Silk Road was more than just a means to an end. It was a symbol of resistance against the perceived intrusiveness of government oversight. For Ross Ulbricht, the journey was as much about providing a service as it was about championing a cause he deeply believed in: the sanctity of individual freedom and the power of the free market. By early 2013, Silk Road was processing transactions that would exceed $1.2 billion by the time of its closure. The marketplace's reach extended globally, with sellers and buyers from various countries conducting business in the shadows of this digital underworld. The success of the platform, however, was also its downfall, as it became an inevitable target for law enforcement determined to uphold the law. The story of Silk Road is not just about technology or commerce. It is deeply human. It is about the aspirations and struggles of individuals who found themselves at the intersection of innovation and regulation. For Ross Ulbricht, it was a journey fraught with moral complexities and the ever-present tension between ideology and reality. His dream of a marketplace free from control was simultaneously a visionary endeavor and a controversial experiment. As the months passed, the net began to close in on Silk Road and its enigmatic leader. The authorities were relentless, piecing together a complex puzzle to unveil the true identity behind the Dread Pirate Roberts. In the cat-and-mouse game that unfolded, Ross Ulbricht found himself navigating a landscape that was rapidly shifting beneath his feet. The rise of Silk Road is a testament to the power of technology and the enduring spirit of those who dare to challenge the boundaries of the possible. It is a story of ambition and the unforeseen consequences that accompany it. As Ross Ulbricht and his creation reached new heights, so too did the scrutiny that would eventually lead to his capture and the dismantling of his digital empire. The path ahead was fraught with danger, as the forces of law and order closed in on the freedoms that Silk Road represented to many. Yet, within this growing tension lay the seeds of a discussion that would transcend the marketplace itself, a dialogue about the future of privacy, technology, and the role of government in a rapidly evolving digital age. As we move forward, the story of Ross Ulbricht and the Silk Road is one that continues to provoke thought and debate. It forces us to confront the uneasy balance between innovation and regulation, and the complex web of human motivations that drive us to push boundaries. What was once a bold experiment in the pursuit of liberty had become a focal point for broader questions about the limits of freedom in a connected world. The rise of the Silk Road was meteoric, and its impact profound. It cast a spotlight on the potential and pitfalls of a world where anonymity and commerce collide. As the narrative unfolds, we are drawn deeper into the labyrinth of choices and consequences faced by Ross Ulbricht and those who walked beside him. We are reminded that the story is far from over, and that the echoes of this digital revolution will continue to reverberate for years to come. With each transaction, each decision, the saga of Silk Road evolved. It became a symbol of something much larger than itself, a testament to the complexity of human endeavor in the age of the internet. As we look to the next chapter, the anticipation builds, leading us toward the unfolding drama of a man and his mission. The rise may have been swift, but the journey was only just beginning. As the story of Ross Ulbricht progresses, we are left to ponder what lies ahead in this tale of ambition and consequence. The stage is set for a confrontation that will change the course of his life and forever alter the landscape of the digital frontier. And so, as we close this chapter, we prepare to delve into the world of Dread Pirate Roberts, a name that would become infamous and immortalized in the annals of internet history. The narrative continues, promising more revelations and challenges as we unravel the complexities of identity and legacy in the digital age. The narrative continues, promising more revelations and challenges as we unravel the complexities of identity and legacy in the digital age. Behind the curtain of Ross Ulbricht's story lies a web of intricate relationships and unexpected turns that define not only his life but also the trajectory of digital marketplaces. Ross Ulbricht, born on March 27, 1984 in Austin, Texas, grew up in a time of digital transformation. His early life was marked by a keen interest in science and technology, an interest that would later fuel his innovations. As a young man, Ross was deeply influenced by the philosophy of Ludwig von Mises and the principles of libertarianism. These ideas championed minimal government interference and the power of individual choice, setting the ideological foundation for what would become the Silk Road. In 2010, the discovery of Bitcoin by Satoshi Nakamoto added a new dimension to Ross's vision. This decentralized currency aligned perfectly with his libertarian beliefs, offering a way to transact without centralized banking systems. The anonymity and freedom it promised captured his imagination. It wasn't long before he connected the dots between Bitcoin and his desire to create a free market, unencumbered by regulation. The Silk Road was launched in January 2011, a digital bazaar nestled in the recesses of the internet, accessible only via the Tor network. Tor, short for the Onion Router, provided the anonymity Ross needed to keep the marketplace hidden from law enforcement. With Bitcoin facilitating transactions, users could buy and sell goods without a paper trail. Initially, the marketplace started small, but its promise of privacy and freedom quickly attracted attention. By 2012, Silk Road had become a bustling marketplace, processing close to $1.2 billion in transactions at its peak. The range of products available was vast, from books and art to more illicit items like drugs and counterfeit documents. As its popularity grew, so did the scrutiny from law enforcement. However, for a time, the cloak of anonymity held firm, allowing the marketplace to thrive. Ross operated under the pseudonym Dread Pirate Roberts, a nod to a character from the novel and movie The Princess Bride. The alias symbolized the Silk Road's ethos, a legacy passed from one to another, shrouded in mystery and legend. This anonymity was crucial, as it allowed Ross to maintain a separation between his public identity and the operations of the Silk Road. Yet the weight of his secret life began to take its toll. The ethical implications of the Silk Road were complex. While it was hailed as a pioneer of digital currency and privacy, it was also a hub for illegal activity. Supporters argued that it provided a safer environment for buying and selling drugs, away from the dangers of street-level crime. Critics, however, pointed to its role in facilitating illegal trade, questioning the morality of profiting from such transactions. This dichotomy highlighted the larger debate between free markets and regulation in the digital age. As the Silk Road's influence grew, so did the efforts of law enforcement to dismantle it. The investigation into its operations was a multinational effort, involving agencies such as the FBI, the DEA, and the IRS. In October 2013, the net closed around Ross. He was arrested at the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library, a moment captured in photographs that would circulate widely, marking the end of an era. Ross's trial was a pivotal moment, not just for him, but for the broader conversation about digital privacy and the limits of free enterprise. Charged with a litany of offenses, including money laundering, computer hacking, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics, he faced the full force of the legal system. In 2015, he was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, a decision that sparked outrage among his supporters, who viewed him as a political prisoner rather than a criminal mastermind. Yet, the story was far from over. Behind prison walls, Ross became a symbol of the ongoing battle between privacy advocates and law enforcement. His case sparked debates about sentencing reform and the ethical implications of digital anonymity. Over the years, a growing movement of supporters lobbied for his release, arguing that his punishment was disproportionate and unjust. In a surprising turn of events, Ross Ulbricht was pardoned by President Donald Trump on January 21, 2025. The pardon came after a long campaign by his supporters, who had advocated tirelessly for his release. This campaign reached a turning point at a Bitcoin conference in Nashville, where Trump promised to consider the pardon as part of his broader agenda on criminal justice reform. The announcement was met with a mixture of relief and disbelief by those who had followed Ross's journey closely. Released at the age of 40, Ross stepped out into a world transformed by the very ideas he once championed. Bitcoin, once a fringe innovation, had become a mainstream financial instrument, influencing global economies. The principles of digital privacy, anonymity, and freedom that Ross embodied continued to resonate in discussions about the future of the internet. Looking forward, the legacy of the Silk Road and Ross Ulbricht remains a topic of intense debate. For some, he is a trailblazer who dared to challenge the status quo, a visionary ahead of his time. For others, he is a cautionary tale about the perils of unchecked freedom in the digital age. This duality underscores the complexity of his story and the far-reaching impact of his actions. As we close this chapter, we find ourselves at a crossroads of ethical and technological evolution. Ross Ulbricht's pardon is not just an end, but a new beginning, a chance to reflect on the intersection of technology, liberty, and responsibility. In the next chapter, we will delve deeper into the implications of his release and explore the enduring influence of the Silk Road on the world of cryptocurrency and beyond. Ross Ulbricht adopted the alias Dread Pirate Roberts, a moniker borrowed from the film The Princess Bride. This was more than a mere pseudonym. It became a symbol of his philosophical stance and operational strategy. Ulbricht envisioned the Silk Road as a new frontier for free trade, unfettered by governmental control. As Dread Pirate Roberts, he operated from the shadows, weaving a complex tapestry of cryptographic systems and global networks. Ross was meticulous in crafting his online persona. As the captain of this digital ship, he commanded a platform that defied traditional regulations. The Silk Road's growth was swift, soon processing transactions that would eventually total around $1.2 billion. By utilizing Bitcoin and Tor, Ulbricht offered his users anonymity and security, drawing both intrigue and ire from various corners of the internet. The marketplace was a testament to his vision, a belief in the power of technology to transcend conventional barriers. The alias Dread Pirate Roberts was not just a mask, but a mantle, suggesting a legacy that could be passed from one individual to another. Ulbricht intentionally cultivated this mystique, implying that he was merely one in a line of many who could assume the role. This strategic ambiguity was designed to protect him, making it harder for authorities to pin the operation on a single individual. However, it also bolstered the allure and the danger of the Silk Road. Ulbricht's adoption of this persona reflected his philosophical roots. He was a proponent of Austrian economics and libertarian ideals, influenced heavily by thinkers like Ludwig von Mises and Murray Rothbard. These philosophies underscored his actions, as he believed in the minimal interference of the state in personal affairs and commerce. The Silk Road, under the command of Dread Pirate Roberts, was his living experiment in these ideas, an attempt to create a market as free as possible from governmental oversight. In these digital corridors, Ross was revered as a visionary by some and reviled as a criminal by others. The marketplace thrived in its anonymity, attracting a wide array of sellers and buyers. It was a modern-day bazaar where drugs, digital goods, and even services were exchanged at the click of a button. This anonymity, however, could not shield the Silk Road indefinitely from scrutiny. As the Silk Road gained notoriety, it also attracted the attention of law enforcement agencies across the globe. The FBI, DEA, and IRS were just a few of the entities that began to probe its operations. They were intrigued and alarmed by the scale of the transactions and the innovative use of technology to evade detection. The digital trails, encrypted and hidden, presented complex challenges to traditional investigative methods. Ross Ulbricht, meanwhile, was acutely aware of the risks he was taking. Operating from behind his laptop, he orchestrated deals, resolved disputes, and maintained the infrastructure of the Silk Road. He did this with the understanding that any misstep could lead to his downfall. Yet the ethos he believed in, the sovereignty of the individual, propelled him forward. He was determined to see through his vision of a decentralized, free market. In October 2013, the cat-and-mouse game with the authorities reached its climax. Ross was captured by the FBI in the science fiction section of the San Francisco Public Library. The arrest was a meticulously planned operation, executed with precision to catch him red-handed while logged into his laptop as Dread Pirate Roberts. This move sealed his fate, bringing an end to the Silk Road era. The trial that followed was as much about Ross as it was about the broader implications of the Silk Road. On trial was not just a man, but an ideology. Prosecutors painted him as a dangerous mastermind, responsible for facilitating illegal activities on an unprecedented scale. In February 2015, Ross Ulbricht was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, a judgment that sparked intense debate over the severity of the punishment and the nature of justice. Behind bars, Ross became a figurehead for discussions around digital privacy, the war on drugs, and the limits of governmental power. Supporters rallied, arguing that his sentence was disproportionate and that the Silk Road had been unfairly characterized. They saw him as a martyr for the cause of internet freedom, a symbol of the struggle against an overreaching state. Years passed, and the echoes of the Silk Road continued to reverberate through discussions of cryptocurrency and the dark web. The marketplace had left an indelible mark on the digital landscape, shaping conversations about privacy, regulation, and the future of online commerce. Ross, meanwhile, became a prolific writer, using his time in prison to reflect on his life and the choices he made. His writings resonated with many, further galvanizing the movement campaigning for his release. In the political sphere, the winds of change began to blow in Ross's favor. During a campaign event at a Bitcoin conference in Nashville in 2024, a promise was made that would alter the course of his life. On January 21, 2025, President Donald Trump issued a pardon for Ross Ulbricht, citing a reassessment of the case and the shifting perspectives on digital privacy and the war on drugs. Ross Ulbricht was 40 years old when he was released from prison. This act of clemency reignited debates, and brought the story of the Silk Road back into the public consciousness. The pardon was both a conclusion and a new beginning, a turning point in a saga that was far from over. As Ross stepped into the world again, he faced the challenge of rebuilding a life interrupted by years behind bars. The landscape had changed, but the fundamental questions the Silk Road had raised remained. In this new chapter, Ross's journey would be shaped by the lessons of the past and the possibilities of the future. And so as we look ahead, we find ourselves at the crossroads of innovation and regulation, freedom and control. The story of Ross Ulbricht, the Silk Road, and Dread Pirate Roberts continues to unfold, offering insights and posing questions that are as relevant today as they were at the beginning of his journey. In the next chapter, we will explore the broader impact of Ross's story and how it has influenced the ongoing conversations about cryptocurrency, digital privacy, and the right to anonymity. In the next chapter, we will explore the broader impact of Ross's story and how it has influenced the ongoing conversations about cryptocurrency, digital privacy, and the right to anonymity. The crack began to show in the thin veil of anonymity that Ross Ulbricht had so carefully constructed. It was October 2013, and the walls of the San Francisco Public Library felt closer than ever. The room was unremarkable, with its muted lighting and the faint, comforting smell of old paper. Yet for Ross, this was the nerve center of a vast digital empire known as the Silk Road. As Dread Pirate Roberts, he had navigated the treacherous waters of the dark web with a confidence that belied the looming threat of discovery. But the crack, it was inevitable. Ross's journey into the world of cryptocurrency and digital privacy was born from a complex amalgamation of philosophy and technology. He was driven by a libertarian ideal, where free markets and personal privacy reigned supreme. Yet, the Silk Road, which he had launched in January 2011, grew beyond a simple marketplace. It became a symbol of rebellion against centralized control and surveillance. For many, it was a beacon of freedom. However, this freedom was not without its cost. By 2013, the Silk Road had processed around $1.2 billion in transactions, all conducted with Bitcoin to ensure anonymity. These numbers were staggering, yet they were also a red flag for law enforcement agencies worldwide. While Bitcoin provided a layer of privacy, it was the Tor network that wrapped the Silk Road in shadows. This powerful combination allowed users to buy and sell illicit goods without fear of exposure. The users felt safe, and for a time, so did Ross. But the crack was widening. The investigation into the Silk Road was not a straightforward endeavor. It required collaboration among multiple agencies and a new understanding of this digital frontier, the likes of which had never been seen before. The FBI, DEA, and Homeland Security pooled their resources, determined to bring down the Silk Road and its enigmatic leader. The investigators dug deep into the records of Bitcoin transactions, tracing them through the blockchain. Slowly, they began to unravel the web that Ross had spun. On October 1st, 2013, they closed in. Ross had been under surveillance for weeks. The agents knew his routines, his habits, and perhaps even his thoughts. They knew he frequented the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library. It was here, in the privacy of a quiet corner, that Ross conducted much of his work as Dread Pirate Roberts. The library, a place of learning and refuge, became the setting for a dramatic takedown. As Ross sat at his laptop, unaware of the forces converging on him, agents moved in. The arrest was swift, leaving Ross in shock and the digital world buzzing with disbelief. Ross Ulbricht was taken into custody, his double life exposed. This moment marked the beginning of a new chapter, not only for him, but for the broader conversation about the future of digital privacy and cryptocurrency. The trial that followed was one of the most watched events in the tech world. His trial unearthed debates that had been simmering beneath the surface. questions about the moral implications of a marketplace that operated without borders or oversight. The Silk Road was a paradox, a testament to the power of decentralized systems, but also a stark reminder of their potential dangers. In February 2015, in a New York courtroom, Ross faced charges that ranged from conspiracy to traffic narcotics to money laundering and computer hacking. The prosecution painted him as a criminal mastermind, while the defense argued that he was a scapegoat, a symbol used to make an example of the risks inherent in digital anonymity. The jury deliberated for 3.5 hours before returning with a verdict. Guilty on all counts. Ross was sentenced to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, without the possibility of parole. His punishment was severe, reflecting the government's stance on cybercrime. This sentence sent ripples through the community of digital privacy advocates and libertarians. Many saw it as a stark warning against challenging the status quo. Others viewed Ross as a martyr, sacrificed at the altar of freedom. Yet this was not the end of Ross's story. Years later, a surprising development would shift the narrative once again. In the final hours of his presidency, on January 21, 2025, Donald Trump issued a pardon for Ross Ulbricht. This decision was met with a mixture of relief and outrage. It drew attention back to the unresolved tensions between innovation and regulation, between privacy and security. The world had changed since the days of the Silk Road, and so had the perception of cryptocurrencies and digital privacy. The pardon symbolized a turning point, not only for Ross, but for the broader discourse surrounding digital rights. It invited new discussions about the role of government in the digital age, about how society should balance the benefits of technological advancement with the need for ethical oversight. For Ross, the pardon meant freedom at last. At 40 years old, he stepped into a world that had evolved during his years behind bars. Still, the questions and challenges he had faced remained unresolved. As we move forward, his story continues to resonate. It serves as a reminder of the human cost behind the headlines and the ongoing struggle for digital privacy in an ever-connected world. As we prepare to delve into the concluding chapter of Ross Ulbricht's journey, we will explore the legacy of the Silk Road, how it has shaped the landscape of cryptocurrency and influenced the debates we still grapple with today. This is not just the story of one man, but a reflection of our collective journey into the digital age. In Chapter 6, we will revisit the investigation and arrest, examining the techniques and strategies employed by law enforcement to finally bring Ross Ulbricht to justice. In Chapter 6, we will revisit the investigation and arrest, examining the techniques and strategies employed by law enforcement to finally bring Ross Ulbricht to justice. The fall of the Silk Road was not a sudden event. Instead, it was the culmination of painstaking work by a dedicated team of federal agents. The digital cat-and-mouse game between Ross Ulbricht and law enforcement spanned nearly 2 years. The man known as Dread Pirate Roberts was as elusive as he was infamous. Ross Ulbricht, born on March 27, 1984 in Austin, Texas, had managed to build an empire in the shadows, but by the summer of 2013, the Silk Road had become too big to ignore. The beginning of the end was marked by the formation of a task force in Washington, D.C., known as the Cybercrime Task Force. This group was a coalition of specialists from the FBI, DEA, and IRS. Their primary aim was to unmask the individuals behind the burgeoning online black market. Gary Alford, an IRS agent with a knack for piecing together disparate digital clues, played a pivotal role. He was among the first to suggest that Ross Ulbricht might be the mastermind behind the Silk Road. Alford's breakthrough came when he connected an early online posting about the site to Ulbricht's email address. It was a small but significant piece of the puzzle. Simultaneously, Jared Der Yegiayan, a Homeland Security investigations agent, was working undercover. He posed as a drug dealer on the Silk Road, gathering crucial intelligence. Through his online interactions, he learned more about the inner workings of the site. His work was instrumental in understanding the platform's operational dynamics. The task force also utilized complex technological strategies to penetrate the layers of anonymity provided by Tor and Bitcoin. Traditional law enforcement tactics seemed inadequate against the encrypted fortresses of the dark web. The turning point came with the discovery of a critical vulnerability in the Silk Road server infrastructure. Using this information, the team set a trap to catch the man behind the mask. It was a delicate operation, requiring precision and timing. On October 1st, 2013, the trap was set. Inside the Glen Park branch of the San Francisco Public Library, Ross Ulbricht sat at a table with his laptop open. He was unaware that he was being watched. Agents stationed themselves strategically around the library. They needed to catch Ross in the act of administering the Silk Road website. It was crucial that his laptop remained open and unlocked. With a carefully orchestrated distraction, one agent posed as a librarian and engaged Ross in conversation. At that moment, others swooped in. In seconds, they had his laptop in their possession. On his screen was the administrative control panel of the Silk Road. The arrest was swift and decisive. Ross was taken into custody without incident. The news of his capture and the shutdown of the Silk Road quickly spread around the world. The media painted Ross as a modern-day outlaw, a Robin Hood of the digital age. Friends and family were shocked by the revelation. They remembered him as a kind, idealistic young man. Yet to the authorities, he was a criminal who facilitated the sale of everything from narcotics to weapons. For Ross, the days following his arrest were filled with uncertainty and despair. He faced serious charges, including conspiracy to commit money laundering, computer hacking, and drug trafficking. The evidence against him was substantial. The digital trail left behind on his laptop was a comprehensive record of his activities. Thousands of messages exchanged as Dread Pirate Roberts were recovered. Each one was a testament to his involvement in managing the Silk Road. In the months leading up to the trial, Ross's legal team worked tirelessly to prepare his defense. They argued that the government's portrayal of him was exaggerated. They claimed that Ross was not the singular figure behind the Silk Road. Instead, they suggested he was a scapegoat for a larger network. But the digital evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution presented logs, emails, and chat transcripts that painted a different picture. Ross Ulbricht, they argued, was the sole architect of the Silk Road. The fall of the Silk Road marked a significant milestone in the fight against cybercrime. It demonstrated that even the seemingly impenetrable domains of the dark web were vulnerable to law enforcement. The techniques developed during this investigation would set a precedent for future operations. The case became a blueprint for tackling digital criminal enterprises. But it also raised questions about privacy, surveillance, and the balance between liberty and security in the digital age. The once vibrant online marketplace was reduced to a static banner announcing its closure. For those involved in its operations, it was the end of an era. For law enforcement, it was a victory that reaffirmed their capabilities in the face of technological challenges. Ross, facing the reality of his situation, began to reflect on the choices that had led him to this point. In the solitude of his cell, he pondered the philosophical ideals that had inspired his journey. He questioned whether his vision for a free market justified the risks and consequences. Had the pursuit of his ideals blinded him to the dangers and ethical quandaries of his actions? As the trial loomed, the world watched with bated breath. The story of Ross Ulbricht and the Silk Road captivated the public imagination. It was a narrative filled with intrigue, technology, and questions about the nature of freedom. In the next chapter, we will delve into the trial that followed his arrest exploring the courtroom battles and the legal strategies that unfolded. We will see how the prosecution and defense clashed over the interpretation of Ross's actions. Join us as we continue this compelling journey into the heart of one of the most significant digital crime cases in history. Ross Ulbricht's trial, a legal spectacle that began in January 2015, was held in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. His arrest in October 2013 at the Glen Park Branch Library in San Francisco had already made headlines, capturing the public's imagination and casting Ulbricht into a spotlight few ever experience. Charged with a range of crimes, including money laundering, computer hacking, and conspiracy to traffic narcotics, Ulbricht faced the formidable task of defending his actions and his identity. Throughout the trial, the prosecution painted him not merely as an entrepreneur with a questionable business model, but as a criminal mastermind, orchestrating a global marketplace for drugs and illicit goods from his laptop. The defense, led by attorney Joshua Drattel, attempted to challenge the narrative of Ulbricht as the sole operator of the Silk Road. They argued that he had handed off control of the site to others long before his arrest, and portrayed him as a fall guy for an operation that expanded beyond his grasp. The courtroom became a battleground of technical details and philosophical debates, a microcosm of the ongoing struggle between privacy advocates and law enforcement in the digital age. Yet for the jury, the details of Ulbricht's vision and idealism were overshadowed by the stark realities of the crimes presented against him. On February 4, 2015, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all 7 counts, a conclusion that perhaps felt inevitable given the weight of evidence and the narrative crafted by the prosecution. The sentencing, delivered on May 29, 2015, was severe: 2 life sentences plus 40 years without the possibility of parole. Judge Catherine Forrest underscored the gravity of Ulbricht's actions, stating that Silk Road had significantly contributed to the burgeoning opioid crisis by facilitating the sale of dangerous drugs. To many, it seemed the end of the story for Ross Ulbricht. Yet, within the confines of his cell, Ulbricht became both a symbol and a subject of debate. His case was taken up by advocates of digital rights, family members, and those who viewed his sentence as a miscarriage of justice. The Free Ross campaign gained traction, arguing that his punishment was disproportionate compared to other offenders involved in similar crimes. Ulbricht's mother, Lynn Ulbricht, became the face of this movement, tirelessly advocating for his release. Speaking at conferences, rallying support, and coordinating legal efforts, she reminded the public of Ulbricht's humanity and potential for redemption. The campaign highlighted issues within the justice system, such as mandatory minimum sentences and the evolving nature of crime and punishment in the digital era. As the years passed and the digital landscape continued to evolve, so too did the perception of Ulbricht's case. The rise of cryptocurrencies and the increasing focus on privacy and digital rights brought fresh eyes to his story. By 2021, Bitcoin had become a household name, its market cap soaring past $1 trillion. This surge in cryptocurrency's legitimacy shifted the conversation about Silk Road from one of criminality to a complex narrative involving innovation and the unintended consequences of technology. Donald Trump's political career, having experienced its own series of dramatic highs and lows, intersected with Ulbricht's narrative in a surprising way. During a Bitcoin conference in Nashville in 2024, Trump announced his intent to pardon Ulbricht if re-elected. This pledge resonated with a segment of the population skeptical of government overreach and supportive of cryptocurrency freedoms. Trump's decision was, to some, a calculated political move. To others, it was seen as a long overdue correction of the justice system's excesses. On January 21, 2025, Ross Ulbricht was pardoned by President Trump. Walking free at the age of 40, his release marked the beginning of a new chapter, not only for himself, but for the ongoing discourse surrounding digital privacy, freedom, and justice. Ulbricht's pardon stirred mixed reactions across the globe. For some, it was a vindication of the idea that punishment should be rehabilitative rather than purely punitive, a second chance for someone who had paid a steep price for youthful naivety and ambition. For others, it raised questions about the nature of justice and the influence of political considerations in the decision-making process. The aftermath of his release was characterized by a period of reflection and transition. Ulbricht, once again finding himself in a world vastly different from the one he left behind, had to navigate the complexities of reintegration into society. The digital world, which had evolved rapidly during his imprisonment, now stood at a crossroads, grappling with questions of regulation, privacy, and the role of decentralized technologies in everyday life. Ulbricht's story became a cautionary tale and a symbol of resilience, prompting renewed discussions about how society should approach digital innovation and its ethical implications. The legacy of Silk Road, shaped by its brief but impactful existence, continued to influence debates over internet freedom and the boundary between legality and liberty in cyberspace. Critics and supporters alike pondered whether Ulbricht's vision of an open, anonymous marketplace was visionary or reckless. In academia and among policymakers, the case became a key reference point when considering future legislation on digital currencies and online marketplaces. For Ulbricht, the task of rebuilding his life outside prison walls was daunting but not insurmountable. Supporters who had championed his cause throughout his imprisonment offered networks and opportunities, while his own determination to contribute positively to society provided motivation. The coming years would test his resilience and the broader society's willingness to reintegrate and forgive. As the world watched, Ulbricht's journey from incarceration to redemption unfolded, a narrative that continued to captivate and provoke. In the broader context, Ulbricht's story serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between innovation and regulation, freedom and security. His pardon, a controversial yet significant act, underscored the ongoing evolution of legal frameworks in the face of rapid technological advancements. As the digital age progresses, policymakers and citizens alike are challenged to consider what lessons can be drawn from Ulbricht's experience and how they might shape the future of digital law and ethics. As we close this chapter, the world stands at an inflection point, with Ulbricht's story serving as both a mirror and a beacon. What comes next in this tale of technology, justice, and human ingenuity remains unwritten, a story to be crafted by those who dare to ask the difficult questions and seek the bold answers. As the night unfolds, let us turn to the next chapter, where we explore the broader implications of Ulbricht's release on global cryptocurrency policy and the future of digital marketplaces. As the night unfolds, let us turn to the next chapter, where we explore the broader implications of Ulbricht's release on global cryptocurrency policy and the future of digital marketplaces. The world of cryptocurrencies and digital marketplaces has undergone seismic shifts since Ross Ulbricht's pardon by President Donald Trump on January 21, 2025. This act, which came as a surprise to many, was the culmination of years of debate surrounding the impact of the Silk Road and the evolving nature of digital privacy. To understand the significance of this moment, we must first revisit the state of the cryptocurrency world before Ulbricht's arrest in 2013. Bitcoin was in its infancy, a nascent technology that had only emerged in 2009. At the time, it captivated a niche group of technologists and libertarians. The Silk Road, launched in January 2011, was one of the first major platforms to demonstrate Bitcoin's potential for anonymous transactions. It processed around $1.2 billion in transactions at its peak, a staggering figure that highlighted both the promise and peril of decentralized digital currencies. The arrest of Ross Ulbricht in a San Francisco public library in October 2013 signaled the beginning of an intense crackdown on darknet markets. Law enforcement agencies around the world began collaborating to combat the proliferation of illegal online activities. These efforts were not just about dismantling criminal enterprises, but also about understanding and regulating the technologies that facilitated them. The trial of Ross Ulbricht, culminating in his sentencing to 2 life sentences plus 40 years, sparked a heated dialogue about justice and proportionality. Critics argued that the punishment was excessively harsh and emblematic of a misunderstanding of digital innovation. Supporters of the sentence saw it as a necessary deterrent against the misuse of technology for criminal purposes. With Ulbricht's pardon, we find ourselves at a crossroads, examining the consequences of this decision on how the world views cryptocurrency and digital rights. One key area of focus is the regulatory framework surrounding cryptocurrencies, which has evolved significantly since the days of the Silk Road. Between 2013 and 2025, countries around the world began to implement varying degrees of regulation. The European Union, for example, introduced the 5th Anti-Money Laundering Directive in 2020, which aimed to bring cryptocurrency exchanges under tighter oversight. In the United States, the Securities and Exchange Commission, along with other regulatory bodies, took a more active role in scrutinizing digital assets. This included discussions around the classification of cryptocurrencies and the implications for investors and consumers alike. The question remained, how does Ulbricht's release influence these ongoing dialogues? Public sentiment around digital privacy and the role of the state has also shifted. The years following Ulbricht's trial saw an increasing awareness of the importance of privacy in an age of digital surveillance. Movements advocating for stronger digital rights gained momentum, emphasizing that technology should empower individuals rather than subject them to increased scrutiny. The implications extend beyond policy and regulation. They touch the very fabric of what it means to operate in a digital economy. For entrepreneurs and innovators, Ulbricht's story serves as a cautionary tale of the risks inherent in pioneering uncharted territories. It also raises questions about the balance between innovation and legality. Ulbricht's release reignited debates about the morality and ethics of punishment in the digital age. Should individuals who push the boundaries of technology be treated as criminals or as pioneers who challenge us to rethink our norms? This question resonates with many who operate at the intersection of technology and society, as they navigate the complexities of a rapidly evolving landscape. For those involved in cryptocurrency, the pardon represents both a vindication and a responsibility. It highlights the enduring tension between freedom and regulation, between anonymity and accountability. Those who championed Ulbricht's cause view his release as a symbolic victory for digital rights. However, they also recognize the need to continue advocating for balanced policies that protect innovation while preventing abuse. The legacy of the Silk Road and its enigmatic founder is a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, controversy, and a quest for understanding in a digital world. As we consider the broader implications of Ulbricht's release, we must ask ourselves, how will this chapter be remembered in the ongoing story of digital transformation? The answer lies in the choices we make today, choices that will shape the contours of a future where technology continues to redefine the boundaries of possibility. As we close this chapter, we find ourselves on the precipice of new possibilities, where the lessons of the past inform the potential of what is yet to come. The story of Ross Ulbricht is not just about one man's journey. It is a reflection of our collective struggle to understand and harness the power of technology responsibly. In this moment of introspection, we are reminded of the profound impact that individual actions can have on the world stage. As we turn the page, let us prepare to delve deeper into the narratives that continue to unfold, shaping the future of digital spaces and the people who inhabit them. This journey is far from over, and as we move forward, we must remain vigilant and thoughtful, aware that the choices we make today will echo into the future. In our next chapter, we will explore the ongoing debates and emerging trends that define the landscape of digital currencies and privacy in a post-Ulbricht world. Join us as we navigate the complexities and challenges ahead, seeking understanding and insight in a rapidly changing digital era. Join us as we navigate the complexities and challenges ahead, seeking understanding and insight in a rapidly changing digital era. The story of Ross Ulbricht's journey from the creation of the Silk Road to his eventual pardon is not just a tale of technology and crime, but a profound reflection on the nature of freedom, justice, and redemption. When Donald Trump announced the pardon on January 21, 2025, it was a moment that resonated far beyond the confines of the legal system. It marked a turning point, not only for Ross, but also for the evolving conversations around digital privacy and cryptocurrency. Ross Ulbricht was released from prison at the age of 40, stepping into a world remarkably different from the one he had left behind in 2013. The Bitcoin he had once used to fuel the Silk Road had grown from a niche interest into a mainstream financial instrument, its value soaring to unforeseen heights. This reflected not only economic changes, but the shifting perceptions of digital currencies over the years. The landscape of privacy, too, had undergone transformation. Conversations about online privacy and digital rights were no longer fringe discussions, but central to public discourse. The Silk Road, despite its legal and ethical controversies, had undeniably accelerated the public's understanding and awareness of these issues. Ross's mother, Lynn Ulbricht, had been his steadfast advocate throughout his imprisonment. Her tireless campaigning, speaking at events, and engaging with media around the world played a crucial role in keeping his case in the public eye. Many saw her as a symbol of a mother's unwavering love and the relentless pursuit of justice. She often spoke at conferences and rallies, reminding people that while her son had made mistakes, he had also opened the door to necessary conversations about the government's reach in the digital age. The pardon itself was not without controversy. Critics questioned Trump's motivations, especially given the timing, right after his speech at the Bitcoin conference held in Nashville, where he had promised to review cases involving digital pioneers like Ross. However, to many, the pardon was seen as a gesture, acknowledging the need to reassess harsh penalties in the rapidly changing landscape of digital innovation. For Ross, his release was bittersweet. Freedom brought new opportunities, but also the daunting task of reintegrating into a society that had moved on without him. His thoughts often wandered back to the early days of the Silk Road, when idealism and ambition intertwined, creating a platform he believed could change the world. Ross's philosophical influences had always been key to his worldview. He was deeply inspired by Ludwig von Mises and the Austrian school of economic thought, which emphasized individual freedom and limited government intervention. These ideas were instrumental in the creation of the Silk Road, a marketplace that, in his view, exemplified the principles of voluntary exchange free from state interference. Yet the reality of the platform diverged from his vision. The Silk Road became synonymous with illegal drug trade and other illicit activities, drawing the intense scrutiny of law enforcement agencies worldwide. The marketplace's closure in October 2013 was the result of a coordinated effort by multiple agencies, marking a significant victory in the war against online crime, but also raising questions about the balance between security and privacy. After his arrest at the San Francisco Public Library on October 1, 2013, Ross faced a trial that captivated the nation. Prosecutors painted him as a dangerous criminal, while his defense argued he was a scapegoat, a symbol of excessive government punishment. The sentence, 2 life sentences plus 40 years, was a stark warning to others in the digital space. However, in the years that followed, public opinion began to shift. The debate over Ross's sentence became part of a larger conversation about criminal justice reform in the United States. Many argued that nonviolent offenders, particularly those involved in the technological sphere, were being disproportionately punished. Donald Trump's pardon of Ross Ulbricht was a manifestation of these changing attitudes. It was a statement, albeit controversial, that the justice system needed to adapt to the digital realities of the 21st century. Ross's release did not mean an end to the discussions his case had sparked. Rather, it served as a catalyst for continued dialogue about digital privacy, the role of cryptocurrency, and the limits of governmental power in cyberspace. These were issues that had only grown more pressing as technology advanced and became more intertwined with everyday life. In the years following his release, Ross dedicated himself to advocacy and education. He sought to share his experiences, hoping to provide insight into the pitfalls and possibilities of digital freedom. He became a voice in the movement for criminal justice reform, particularly in cases involving technology and nonviolent crimes. Ross's story also resonated with a new generation of digital entrepreneurs and privacy advocates who looked to his case as a cautionary tale of ambition, innovation, and unforeseen consequences. His life became a testament to the complexities of navigating the intersection of technology and law. In the broader context, Ross Ulbricht's journey from prisoner to advocate underscored the ongoing evolution of the digital age. It highlighted the tensions between innovation and regulation, freedom and control, ideals and reality. As we reflect on his legacy, it is clear that the issues raised by the Silk Road are as relevant today as they were over a decade ago. The world continues to grapple with the implications of technological advancements that challenge traditional notions of privacy, commerce, and justice. Ross's story is far from over. His experiences continue to offer lessons for those navigating the complex digital landscape, reminding us of the enduring importance of empathy, understanding, and adaptation in a world that is constantly changing. As we look to the future, the narrative set in motion by Ross Ulbricht's life invites us to reconsider our own roles in shaping the digital era. It challenges us to ask difficult questions about the kind of future we want to build, one that balances innovation with responsibility and freedom with accountability. The legacy of the Silk Road and its enigmatic creator continues to unfold, inviting us to explore deeper truths about the human condition and the societies we construct. In the next chapter, we will delve into the continuing impact of Ross Ulbricht's story on digital policy and societal change, examining how one man's vision influenced a generation and what lies ahead in the uncharted territories of the digital frontier. Ross Ulbricht is free. In the tapestry of his life, threads of idealism interweave with the stark reality of consequence. His journey through the corridors of innovation and regulation serves as a profound reminder of the delicate balance between freedom and restraint. As he steps into a world transformed since his arrest in 2013, he carries the weight of lessons learned in silence and solitude. Technology, with its endless possibilities, marches forward, altering our perceptions of privacy, security, and autonomy. Ulbricht's story is a testament to the dual nature of such advancements, a source of empowerment, yet fraught with ethical complexities. The Silk Road, once a symbol of unbridled potential, echoes the age-old dance between creation and control, shadow and light. At its essence, this tale is about human aspiration and the relentless quest for freedom, a pursuit as diverse as the individuals engaged in it. It speaks of choices made in the name of progress and the unforeseen consequences that ripple through time, affecting lives beyond their immediate sphere. These decisions highlight the intricate connection between innovation and accountability. Trust in our digital age emerges as both a currency and a conundrum. Ulbricht placed his faith in the anonymity of the internet, envisioning a marketplace liberated from traditional boundaries. Yet, even in a decentralized realm, trust remains tenuous, subject to erosion by misunderstanding and misuse. His story invites us to contemplate the nature of trust in the vast, interconnected web of modern life. As we ponder his narrative, we are urged to consider the intertwining of money, power, and technology, and how these forces shape our contemporary landscape. Ulbricht's actions sparked vital discussions about digital freedom and responsibility, conversations that persist as we explore new technological frontiers. These dialogues challenge us to find harmony between innovation and ethical integrity. Looking forward, both for Ross Ulbricht and the world shaped by his vision, we are left to reflect on the delicate equilibrium between progress and responsibility. How do we harness the potential of technology while upholding the values that unite us? As night envelopes our thoughts, let these reflections gently settle like quiet whispers in the dark. Imagine the path ahead, one guided by wisdom and care, where technology serves humanity's highest ideals. Allow these musings to guide you toward a peaceful rest, wrapped in the calm of introspection.